we really felt like we didn't belong on this site when we saw things like that. We really have a theory that like if you have a black girl on your cover or a black person of anything on the cover of your stories nowadays on Wattpad, it's most likely not going to get traffic. Hey y'all, it's Harriyanna and I'm back with another video. Today we are back with another video in the series of why Wattpad will never sponsor me or want to work with me. And they might even make me delete my account. But today, yeah, we're not really going to be hating on Wattpad all that much. We kind of are, but we're not at the moment. We're really just going to be talking about a specific era on Wattpad that a lot of people don't really know about. And when I say people, I mean non-black people. Because black people vividly remember this era, like especially if you were in middle and high school during this time, you remember where black girls used to run Wattpad, okay? Like there used to be a whole section, like Wattpad back then used to have something in it for everybody. Well, black and white people. I didn't really see much diversity for any other races. I think I did see, there was like a big community for Latino people, but I didn't really see much for anybody else, but there really was a lot there for black readers. As you know, this actually was going on during the One Direction era of Wattpad, but we are not going to be speaking much about that era. We're going to be talking about that whole black celebrity era where literally we had pop stars, black pop stars, we had black boy bands, we had black singers, like teenage boys our own age that were actually of color and not rappers, stealing everybody's hearts out here, okay? We had that, and we have not had that in so long, and it is so sad that kids these days, black kids these days, do not have black singers to look up to like that. Now they got is these trash mobile rappers, and it's so freaking sad. But I am grateful that I was able to get that era because I still do have a connection with a lot of those people because they did a lot for me during that time period. Now moving on, I'm just rambling at this point. We're going to be talking about when black girls used to run Wattpad. Now this was during the time of when Wattpad first came up, where Wattpad didn't really start to get much attention until 2010 when middle schoolers, that's when a lot of middle schoolers start to find fan fiction, okay? And that was the rise of One Direction. But also during the rise of One Direction was when we had the rise and the downfall of mindless behavior. And I actually do have a video breaking down about what actually happened to mindless behavior, so if you guys would like to watch that, I will have a link down below. But yes, this is like during the mindless behavior era where we had a whole bunch of like 1D stories over here. I never touched them. I was not a One Direction stan, no shade to them, I just wasn't into it. We had mindless behavior stuff all over here, and I wasn't a mindless behavior fan either. But because of mindless behavior, there became a lot of other black celebrities that were associated with them. Like we had Issa, we had the OMG girls, we had Keke Palmer, we had Zoe Kravitz. We had like the Zoe Kravitz that y'all know now is not the way I knew her back then when I was in middle school. That was a completely different person, okay? Zendaya back then is different then than she was now, because I even throw her into that era. Like we had the OMG girls, we had Issa, it's so many people. It's like a new person every time I go, but mainly mindless behavior was like the main people everybody had in their fix, and then the other people would like come in and make side appearances and somewhat. It was really weird, but it was also really interesting because it was nice to read stories about people that look like me. So we specifically are going to be talking about the mindless behavior era. I call it the mindless behavior era because at this time they were the biggest name, and usually all these other black celebrities were connected to them in some kind of way. Like everybody has had some type of encounter with mindless behavior at this time. But as we know, trends quickly do fade out because mindless behavior, yeah, we know mess hit the fan and then they just left. And then One Direction was still around, and then the boys were still doing individual projects. It's like once mindless behavior died down and like went away, all the other male celebrities, like black teen male celebrities at that time, I wouldn't really throw like Trevor Jackson in there because he was still like coming up. So he doesn't really, I wouldn't count people like Trevor Jackson though, or Zendaya. But a lot of those people like OMG girls and whatnot, they weren't doing pretty much, and if they were doing much, it wasn't getting much traffic. So these stories started to die down. And then we ended up getting a new era on Wattpad. We got the BWWM era. Now, you don't know what BWWM stands for. It stands for Black Woman, White Man. This is when a lot of the interracial stories started to spark up between fandoms. And usually this is for, I started to see this rise a lot with Justin Bieber. He actually was the celebrity, the white male celebrity that had the most BWWM stories. And I have read a few in the past, and they are pretty good. I'm telling y'all, black women are amazing. I swear, I'm not even a Justin Bieber fan, but those stories were good. Like, and also this was the era where Justin Bieber was black. Two worlds started to collide, where black girls realized, hey, I can actually write myself in stories with my white idols, because it was just like when you go through all of those stories where it was just the white celebrities, it was just them written with white girls or white readers and whatnot. So we having our own side of Wattpad where we were in the stories, that's where we like felt like we were included. Even if you weren't a fan of Mine's behavior or all night, you still read that stuff because that was the only way you saw you in a freaking story. But then once we started to get BWWMs for the 1D boys, that's when the world of Wattpads, I think this is when it was like at its peak, when we actually started to have black girls and other girls of color write them into stories, into like worlds where it's completely white. Like, I will take After for an example. I will let y'all know now, After was a completely white story. They decided to add diversity in it when they had the film. It was just completely white, and that just goes to show you how like we really felt like we didn't belong on this site when we saw things like that. And Wattpad is trying so hard to push black writers on their platform, and it's not really doing much because people still aren't reading the stories. Black Wattpad is extremely strange because a lot of the writers on that site don't get any type of traffic on their videos, on their books, and it's extremely sad because they're doing what they can to try to promote them and whatnot. But like, I really have a theory that like if you have a black girl on your cover, or a black person of anything on the cover of your stories nowadays in Wattpad, it's most likely not going to get traffic, because I noticed that on my stories, the story that has the most reads is the one with the cover of a white man on it. Now, were any of these stories good? Pretty much no. The One Direction stories were just as bad as the Mine's Behavior era stories. The Justin Bieber stories were just as bad as the Trevor Jackson stories. It's all fan fiction at the end of the day, but we all still read it because it's what we liked. And it got us to read, because adults like to say kids don't like to read. Yes, we do. We just read other stuff, okay? Get over it. Like, it was always the same thing where you went on a tour with a celebrity. They picked you out in the crowd. They brought you to be their girlfriend. They were bullying you. You fell in love with your bully. You tutored him. He played the football team. You were the nerd that went to the library every day to eat lunch. It was the same freaking tropes. It was nothing new. But we loved those tropes because, I don't know, it's just like a sense of familiarity where like, why do we like bad fan fiction so much? I don't know. It's like a sense of familiarity where we know how the story's gonna go. We know they're gonna fall in love. We know they're gonna have their cahoots and whatnot. And the sad thing about it is that it's like, as soon as these people start to fall in love with each other, the writer never updates. That always seems to happen, and I'm guilty of this, okay? Don't judge me. I don't know. It's just kind of like you don't want the story to end, so you just keep it going and going and going and going and going until it, like, you know, you can't do nothing about it. But Wattpad nowadays is never gonna live up to how Wattpad used to be, because nowadays I just think this isn't even just the issue with black writers in general. This is just a issue with all writers, where it is just hard to get a following off of that site alone. Like, you gotta have some type of other social media account to try to get some type of traffic to your stories and all your Wattpad stories. I still post my stories on Wattpad, but I also have to post them on Tumblr too, because I get more. Like, that's how dead Wattpad is nowadays. I'm on Wattpad all the time now. I love the small little community that it is now, but it gets less attention than Tumblr nowadays, and we know no one uses Tumblr anymore except for like me and like 1% of people on this earth. That's how no one uses this site anymore. I just feel like everyone's just over the era. They feel like so many people are writing the same type of books and whatnot, and it's actually sad that so many people left Wattpad because nobody are seeing what these new writers are bringing to the table. Because that's part of the reason why I started writing in the first place, is because, well, I always be a writer, but when I started writing on Wattpad in the first place is because I was just getting tired of reading the same freaking stories all the freaking time. And it was just really, it's just really kind of sad what the site has turned into. And it's like Wattpad is just trying so hard to be relevant again that they have turned to being corporate, like business, like making money, running ads on their site. It's like, ever since they saw After, like After has became a movie, it's like they're trying so hard to do what they can to be relevant again. And I'm just like, until you can get people engaged like how it was when we had the Mind's Behavior era and the One Direction era again, people are not coming back to this site. You can try to get celebrity writers on here, you can put a whole bunch of realistic books on here, you can try to do paid stories like this is freaking Audible and Kindle. Like, it's not. Who about to pay for a Wattpad book? Y'all can do as much as y'all can. Y'all can have as many conventions as y'all want, but if y'all don't have the same attention that the site had back from 2010 to 2015, the site's not going to be the same ever again. It's just probably going to stay this small, tight-knit little community. And I actually kind of like that. I actually like the way Wattpad is now. I see more celebrities are coming to Wattpad nowadays, and that might get the site popping again. Who freaking knows at this point what can happen to Wattpad in the future? Like, I wouldn't honestly be surprised if Wattpad went bankrupt, but they're not going to be surprised because of After. After, I think, is the only thing that's keeping Wattpad relevant at this moment. Okay? I firmly believe it's just that movie, and that's why they depend on it so hard. Because 9 times out of 10, I have noticed with Wattpad is that when it comes to their books that have gotten published or whatnot, the stories ain't good. They just, if we got a lot of reads, that's what they care about, okay? White reads, by the way, because a lot of these stories that have been greenlit are not written by black authors, nor do they have a lot of black people in them. And the one thing I noticed about black writers when it comes to Wattpad is that they were more open to putting different ethnicities and whatnot in their stories than when it came to reading white writers on Wattpad. And that's just that's just like a big thing I've noticed, because when white people on Wattpad do add black people to their stories, they use heavy AAVE, and it's just not good, where it's weird. It's weird. I just got so off track for what this video was supposed to be about. It turned into another Wattpad rant because every day I just hate what this site has turned into, and I wanted to go back to how it used to be, but it's never gonna go back to how it used to be, okay? We're never gonna get Mind's Behavior era Wattpad ever again, okay? We're never getting it back, and I need to accept it and just deal with what we got now. That concludes my little rant video. It was supposed to be a really lighthearted, cute video about me reminiscing on my middle school days, and it just turned into me realizing that Wattpad is a whole mess. I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Wattpad specifically. I'm not even going to promote all my other social medias today. We're going to promote my Wattpad. But yes, thank you guys for watching. I love you all so much, and yes, goodbye.